Hey folks, John here, I'll take Reforge. Welcome back. If it's your first time here, welcome. So, what's going on today? I'm down here in the workshop. I'm getting started on a new blade making project. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 videos to finish because what I want to do is kind of complicated. But as you can see from my super advanced rendering software I got here, it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm not going to sit here and talk your ear off. I feel like the intros and the videos have been running kind of long lately, so let's get to the project. So, recently a friend of mine gave me a box full of this chain right here. It came off as some sort of equipment at the place he works at. I don't know exactly what it is. It looks similar to motorcycle chain, so I've had it soaking in a bath of acetone for a few days to get the grease off it. Got our powdered steel, got a bunch of scrap. We're going to fabric cobble up a canister real quick, like throw some whiteout in there and see what we can come up with. Alrighty, we got our end caps ground up so they fit inside the walls of the tubing real nice. We'll go through and weld all that up, get our work peg welded on, and we'll be good to fill this thing up. I know some people are going to want to know the size canister I'm starting with. This is 1 3/4 tubing with an 1/8 of an inch wall. There's no reason in the world I'm using that size. It's just what I had laying around in the scrap pile. But thinner walled tubing will make getting rid of the canister later easier, whether you peel it or grind it off. So, you know, 1/8 or 1/16 inch wall is good to go. But let's keep moving. So what I got here, just plain old whiteout. What you do is you pour it in the can and you kind of tilt the can around to coat the inside of it real good. What this is supposed to do is keep the contents of the can from welding to the can. I've only done canister a few times and I've had about a 60% success rate with it, so, you know, hopefully it works. One thing I have found is for the whiteout to work like it's supposed to, it does need to be dry. So you can let it sit for a couple hours or something like that, or if you're impatient like me, you can blast the sides of the can with a torch. This stuff's actually really flammable, so just keep it kind of away from the inside, and you'll be okay. Nothing to it, really. So now we're just pulling the chain out of the acetone. This particular chain has little linkages about every 4 inches. You can pop out and break it into little sections, which is kind of nice. But we'll hit it with some degreaser, make sure it's looking good, and we'll get the can packed. Alrighty, got this thing packed full of as much chain as it'll hold. We're gonna vibrate our powdered steel down in there to fill in the gaps and hopefully get us a nice solid billet. I was trying at first to kind of keep the chain links upright and kind of in a row. Canoe might have been a better way to go with this, but you know, this is what we got, so we're gonna keep moving. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you already kind of know the basics of Canister Damascus, but if you don't, we got 1084 powdered steel here. So basically all we do is we put this in the can, and then you kind of tap it. You can use like a jigsaw or something to vibrate the can a little more, but I've honestly had the best luck just hitting it with a hammer. And that just sinks all the powdered steel to the bottom, and you keep filling it up till it's full, and then forge weld it into a solid billet. So here's kind of what I'm talking about. At first glance, the can looks pretty full. But you can see as we tap it, the powdered steel just kind of works its way down and slowly fills in all those voids. So just take your time. Alrighty, we got our end cap seated in there real nice. So we're just going to run some weld around there, make it all nice and airtight, and get this baby in the fire. So my plan for getting the initial weld set is to come at the dies long ways like this, squeeze, turn 90 degrees, squeeze, being gentle at first, and kind of working my way up and down the billet. And I'll probably do that about 3 times or so to hopefully get a good weld before I draw it out into a bar stock and see what we got. There are special squaring dies you can either make or buy for making Canister Damascus, but it isn't something I do very often, so I think I can get by with the flats. We're going to find out, so hopefully everything goes well. Let's get this guy in the fire. So, to forge well, we want to be in between 22 and 2400 degrees, so we're looking pretty good. Once we get a nice consistent temperature throughout the forge, I'm going to let it soak about 5 or 6 minutes per side, so about 20-25 minutes total. Biggest problem people have with canister is not letting it soak long enough, so just be patient. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. All right, we're looking pretty good. My laser thermometer battery died, so I don't know the exact temperature, but I can tell by looking at it that's forge welding heat. So we're gonna soak it 5 minutes per side and then take it to the press and see what we got. So that first heat was kind of iffy. It compressed a lot, but the can was also bulging out a lot, which means the material might not have been as consolidated as I would have liked. So we're gonna keep rolling with it, take a couple more heats and see what we got, and hopefully we got good material. So for the second heat, we soaked it for about 15 minutes, and that actually felt really good. It felt like it was kind of behaving more like one piece of material. So we're gonna soak it 15 more minutes, take one more heat, and then we'll cut the can off and see where we can go from there. All right, that third heat felt really good. It was behaving more or less as one piece of material, which is good, obviously. So we'll let this thing cool, cut the ends off, see what we're looking at, and try to peel the canister. So anytime I do canister, for whatever reason, I don't know why, the bandsaw doesn't want to cut it. So I ended up throwing this thing in the vise and taking the angle grinder to it with a cutting wheel. But that's looking really, really good. So we're not out of the woods yet. It might look like crap in the middle. We won't know for sure until we actually get the can off and try to forge it. So we'll cut the other end off, score it, and then take a chisel to it and see what we can do. Ooh, baby. I'm going to be a happy man if this can peels off easy. Because this is the other end, and it's looking pretty good, too. Like I said, we're still not out of the woods, but early signs indicate success. Give it the old bonk. So I got an idea for getting the can off a little faster. What I've done is gone through and ground off all the corners, and then I should be able to just chisel down in here because there's nothing holding it on the sides. It should just come right off. That's my theory anyway. Also, there was a little bit of an imperfection right there I had to grind through, but I got it out, so we'll keep moving. All right, I got one side of the can off, but in the time this is going to take, it'll be faster and easier just to grind it off, so I'm going to grind it off. Alrighty, we got the canister off. From here, I don't see anything wrong with the billet, but this thing could be full of inclusions. We're not going to know until we try to forge it. So just to be safe, I'm going to work it down at a welding heat. Maybe throw some flux on it just for good measure. Probably don't need to, but it certainly won't hurt nothing. And we'll forge this down into about 1.5 inches wide by about a 1/2 inch thick bar stock. There's a good chunk of material here, so we should have plenty. A pretty cool feature of this Riverside machine press that I'm just starting to play around with is the, I'm going to call it an adjustable kiss block. I don't know what the manufacturer calls it, but what I've done is taken a piece of 1/2 inch square bar, chucked it up in the jaws, brought the ram down until it touched, cut the power, and then what I could do is come down here, and this little thing here will move up and down and hit the linkage that's attached to the foot pedal. So basically it's a built-in kiss block. What'll happen now is the jaws, when they come down, they'll stop at 1/2 inch rather than coming together. So I think that's pretty cool. You can use this bottom one here to like limit how far up it travels too, if you're, I guess you don't want it to travel up really high for some reason. But I just wanted to show that to you guys. It's pretty sweet. See what I mean? The jaws stop at about 1/2 inch apart now. So that makes forging stuff down to a certain thickness really, really easy. So I don't know if you can see or not, but right here on this corner, we got a little bit of a cold shut. That's really common with Canister Damascus, especially when using dirty, odd-shaped materials like chain. That's really not a problem. That's the only thing I'm seeing wrong with this billet. So what we're gonna do is take another heat and hot rasp that off of there so we're not forging it into the billet as we go. But you know, if you're doing canister and you see something like that on your corners, that happens all the time. You just kind of have to remove them as you draw the billet out. So if you see something like that, you know, don't throw it away. You can still salvage it. Like I said, we'll just take the old hot rasp to that problem corner until we get that cold shut out of there. That'll do it, really. So here's what we got off the press. It's looking pretty good. We got 1/2 inch thickness, 1.5 inch width, and 11 inches of change of length. So I'm going to cut it down to 10 inches, cut it in half, throw a 1095 core in there, and make a big San billet, because I've got a picture in my head of how it's going to look, and I think it's going to look really cool. As well as, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know what kind of material that chain is, so I don't know, you know, about toughness or edge holding properties or anything like that. So I just think this is going to be a better option, and it'll also give me more mass to make a bigger blade, which, you know, really isn't a problem, but I'm justifying my actions to myself. All right, we got our billet tacked up for the final forge weld. Got our 1095 core in there. Got the work peg welded back on. I'm going to set the weld and then go to the grinder and get these seams ground off, just so I don't got to worry about them folding over and creating cold shuts as I forge it down. The final billet I'm trying to go for is something along the lines of 1/4 inch thick by 2 inches wide by however long this thing's going to draw out to. So let's get moving. Alrighty, we got our billet in there. I got new batteries for my laser thermometer. We're going to let this thing soak at about 2300 or so for about 10 minutes, and then we'll get the initial weld set. First weld, here we go. All right, that first pass felt really good, so we're going to soak it maybe 5-8 more minutes or so. Do another one of those and then get the seams ground off, and then we'll forge it to its final dimensions. Second weld. Alrighty, we got the seams knocked off, so hopefully we don't got to deal with any cold shuts around the sides while we forge this thing down. So now we'll just keep it hot, you know, at or close to welding heat, and forge it down to the dimensions we want. So after messing around with the adjustable kiss block on the press, I found it's not the most accurate. Like, I had it set at what should have been 1/4 inch, and the whole billet was about 1/8 inch thicker than it should have been. So what I settled on, just a piece of 1/4 inch scrap steel. We got the width. We're going to run it through one more time to get it dressed up as best we can, and we'll be good to go. So there seems to be an inconsistency of about 1/16 inch. I ran this thing back through the press with a 3/16 kiss block, and it's sitting right at 1/4 inch thick. So I'm not sure why that is, but it's drawing out just about where we want it. So I'll let this thing cool, cut the ends off, and then we'll throw it in some acid to make sure the core looks good and see what we got. So I took one side up to 120 grit and then ran a coarse Scotch-Brite over it. Didn't get all the scale off or anything, so the pattern's kind of milky, as well as there's still hammer marks and crap in there, but you get the idea. The core's a little tweaked in a couple of places, but all in all, it doesn't look terrible at all. It does look like I'm going to have to forge this blade to shape, which is something I didn't want to do. I was hoping I would have enough to just go straight stock removal from here. They say the more forging you do on San, the more likely you are to distort where the core is. But I don't know. If you watch my Forged in Fire episode, Season 6, Episode 17, we had to do a San, and I forged that blade pretty close to finish, and, you know, the core still came out in the center. So I don't know. We're going to forge this out and see what we end up with. Either way, it's going to be awesome. But what I want is something along the lines of a clip point Bowie with a 12-inch blade. Right now I've got 11 inches of material to work with, so we're definitely gonna have to do some handwork to this. But there's that. That's all I got for you. If you like what you saw, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Always more cool stuff coming. What else? Oh, March's quarterly Patreon giveaway is gonna be coming up pretty soon. The axe drift I made in the last video may or may not have something to do with that. So patrons of the channel, be on the lookout for that. Big thanks to you guys. Links in the description to the Facebook, the Etsy, all the social media if you want to follow me or purchase any of my work. I'm the most active on Instagram, so if you want to stay up to date on like the day-to-day goings-on here at the shop, Instagram is the way to go. And also shout out to my buddy Dan Bailey for the videography. But that's all I got for you, and y'all take care.